when you're buying or selling, like you are dealing with money and family and scarcity and abundance. All of these things literally always come up, like every single time. Pair your person with someone that's going to understand all that stuff.
Welcome to the Real Estate Coffee House. Today's feature is Robust Referrals with Lauren Goché. Michael and Lauren have a spot saved for you at their table. Enjoy the chat. Welcome to the Real Estate Coffee House podcast. I am Michael Thorne of Remax Lifestyles Realty and the Thorne Maisie Bongers Real Estate Group in Langley, BC. And today's guest is a realtor at Think Real Estate in Portland, Oregon, who uses her Mary Poppins superpowers for good. She is Lauren Goché. Thank you so much, Lauren, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for pronouncing my name correctly. Well done.
Well, a little Canadian, a little French history doesn't hurt.
That's true.
Now, I'm going to hit you with a hard-hitting question right out the gate, and it's this. Why is Portland, Oregon so awesome?
I would say it is probably the vicinity to, like, we brag that you can both ski and surf in the same day, and we have really good food. Like, it's absurd. I'm going to say this, and I'm sure I'm going to get some shit if anybody listens, but like, I travel a lot all around the world, and there's sometimes where I go places and I'm like, I could get better so-and-so food in Portland sometimes. I know, don't get mad at me, but it's true. We have really good food. So also, how do we feel about cussing? Because I have a terribly foul mouth.
I'll just click the explicit content button when we upload and we'll be fine.
That's probably the right move.
Lauren and I are going to pour over how to build a dynamic referral network. But first, the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Each week, we take a few minutes with our guests to dig into a real estate news story. Now, the news story, Lauren, that came across my desk that I wanted to talk to you about was about the importance of staging, specifically in a changing market. And then I was on your website getting ready for the show, and I came across a really well-written blog post that you put out there about staging. So I swapped the news story out for your blog post, and we will link it in the show notes down below. This was written just at the end, probably, of the hot real estate market, because one of the headlines was a stage listing sold for an average of 14% above list price, where non-stage homes sold for an average of 6 over list price. Yeah. I know you're a big fan of staging. How do you think staging is even going to have a bigger impact in a changing market where there's more product on the market and then the power's moving towards the buyer a little bit more than we've seen in previous years?
I'm like a staging evangelist. Like, I will preach until my voice goes about staging. And I think that as the market changes, which it already has, buyers are finally getting picky. Sorry, they're able to be a little bit picky. Like, I'm still seeing multiple offers, but it's not crazy. This is just in Portland, so I'm seeing what I'm seeing in Portland, but it's so nice to see a buyer picky. And so they want the best, which they kind of, after this last couple of years, they deserved. My poor buyers.
They certainly do.
They so deserve to be picky. And staging just shows off the best of a house.
And it's interesting to me, the lack of staging in our market, because as realtors go out and show homes to potential buyers, they see firsthand the reaction of a staged home versus an unstaged home. The buyer only goes out and buys that one home every 10 years, but realtors see that reaction and the impact of staging every single day, yet we don't see the vast majority of homes being staged. Is it because that conversation with the potential seller is difficult to be able to articulate the value of staging and to convince them this is something that needs to be done?
It's a few things. It's interesting. I have a client that sold here and staged and killed it and got lots of offers in a changing market. And she was on a busy street. She's moving to Vermont, and she's like, literally nothing is staged. And like, you've trained me so well, and like, they could get so much more if they got this staged and all this stuff. So it's really interesting regionally. Staging is really popular in Portland. I think part of it is for anything in, I hate calling it sales, but it is what it is, right? Like, part of my personal success is that I'm convinced that staging is nearly essential in listing houses, nearly essential in getting the absolute most for your seller, getting the best buyer, getting to close. Like, I'm convinced of that. So when you're talking about something that you're not convinced of, it's hard to convince the other person, right? So I truly believe it works. I truly believe it's going to sell your listing for more and get the terms that you want. So for me, it's easy. Like, it's a conversation that's easy.
It's very interesting, too, in a changing digital marketing space, the impact that staging has is so much greater than the showing, because I've seen your content. It has a huge impact on the photography. It has a huge impact on the video. It has a huge impact on the 360 virtual tour. All those things that are now consumed prior to the in-person showing, as marketing has changed in the real estate industry over the last decade, the impact of staging has only increased.
I also want to talk about generational. Like, this is a really big generational thing. Our clients who are boomers, who are not raised, fed, and bred on the internet, they can see a house for whatever it is. Like, they don't fall for staging. Like, it doesn't really work if you're selling to boomers. The boomer generation is selling, not buying for the most part. They're downsizing, they're doing multi-generational, but Gen X, millennials, I call myself a Xennial because I'm like that weird bridge thing. We're all raised for decades now on seeing stuff on the internet. So like, one of my big things is like, we're scrolling, and staging gets you into that fantasy. We've already trained our brains for Instagram. We've already trained our brains from Pinterest of like this beautiful thing. And so our brains subconsciously are starving for that cuteness. We don't even know it. And so we're like, the minute we see something that's staged and professionally and is just like perfect, we think that that is what our life is going to be. I'm going to go a little bit further, because so much of the staging that I see is like kind of neutrals with like a little, like maybe a pop of a yellow here and there. I am obsessed with big, colorful staging, which I think I've actually had a seller like, oh, you told me to paint my door pink and there's like all this color. Like, what if someone doesn't like pink? I'm like, it's not whether you like pink or not. What bright, bold colors do in marketing, it subconsciously makes someone stop scrolling for a millisecond, whether they like it or whether they don't. It pops us out of our cycles. I use my favorite stager, Rough House. She's amazing. And she even puts more color into the houses that she stages for me, because she knows like that's my thing. I mean, you can tell like I'm a colorful person, but it's strategic. It's not just because I like it. That's not the point. It is because it gets people to just pause for a second.
Pouring of a fresh cup means we're moving on to the main topic of today's chat with Lauren Goché, and we're going to be talking about building a dynamic agent referral network. And before we get into the hows, Lauren, let's talk about the why. Why would any agent want to spend some time and some effort and energy to build a referral network with agents?
I think it's two-pronged for me. One is it's passive income. I think last year I brought in like 80,000 in referral fees. What do you call it? Referral money? So yeah, last year, I had about $80,000 in outgoing referrals. But also, I'm sure you've had this conversation with people. Oh God, my mom is trying to buy a house in, Calgary, and it's a nightmare, and oh my God, the things, and you're like, what in the fucking shit is happening? You're like, how is this going so terribly? And it's because it's an inexperienced or a distracted agent or a part-time or someone that's just not a good fit, right? And so it's not just income for me, but it's gaining trust in my own community, and it's protecting my own community. So much so, It is, listen, this is a huge investment in both buying and selling. Either way, don't just wild out and find someone that you don't know is going to be good and a good fit and good at their jobs. Like, let me help your people have this process be not painful. And that's really satisfying.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if I'm starting from square one, either I'm a veteran agent who's never really thought about building a referral network before, or I'm a brand new agent, one of those first few things I should be doing to put the foundations of a referral network together?
Start by telling your referral network, telling your community, you need to train them to come to you first. Just like, how you train, your referral network and your own network in your area. Like, oh, if your neighbor is buying or selling, talk me up. Like you train your people,
Yep.
right? Like that's part of networking. It's the same thing, but just on a bigger scale. I post oh my God, I got my keys from someone in, New Orleans or someone in another state, or I've actually referred out in Canada and Mexico. I share those. So to just start like getting that, that normalization of, oh yeah, Lauren, I think Lauren might have someone in Albuquerque or something,
Yep.
I would say that right there is just start talking to your people. Like I made this little, I didn't make it. I paid someone to make it. Let's be real. Little graphic of the United States. And, oh, these are all the places that I have referral people in. And, I share that often. And I just remind my people, I remind it in email blasts, all that stuff. I think that's the first step.
And it's very interesting. Your approach to referral network is sort of the opposite, I think, of what a lot of people think of. I think a lot of people think of, I'm going to get to know a bunch of agents all over North America and have them send me the business. Where you're looking at, let me go to my people that I've already done business with or in my sphere of influence and say, hey, if your mom is retiring to Arizona or if you're being transferred out to Denver, let me know and I will hook you up with someone out there. It is really both sides of the same coin referral network. You're being proactive to find the people that are now exiting Portland, who are going to have to list their house, by the way, and you're then sending them out into the good hands of someone else. It's a very interesting approach that I think a lot of people might not see as the opportunity opposed to the referrals coming in. You're focused on getting the referrals out to the right agents.
That's funny. I didn't even think about referrals coming in when you reached out to me. That's so funny. I literally was like, oh, it's just referrals out. Like I get referrals in, but as I've grown my business, I think I've gotten more niche down. Like I've really stepped away from doing condos, for instance. I refer that out here in Portland even. I don't keep those. So I don't get a shit ton of referrals coming in anymore. Well, I do. I just mostly kind of put them out. I used to actually get a lot. Discouraged them these days because I'm at the point of my business that I can't take a ton. I need to either grow my team or not, and I want to work less.
I think these are the really exciting things that happen when you talk to somebody. I go in with an approach. I've been doing this for 28, 29 years, and you talk to someone, you go, you know what, that's such a unique way of approaching the referral business, because I truly believe no one's going to put a lawn sign in their home in Portland that's moving to Albuquerque, New Mexico, without first going to Albuquerque to sort of put your feet on the ground and get a sense of what it's like to live there. The first step is going to be, where do I need to go? How much is it going to cost for me to go there? Let me go see some property. Let me get comfortable in putting my home on the market in Portland. And the only way to do that is to go out and start to research the purchasing. So that will definitely happen first. By talking to your sphere, saying, if any of you know someone that needs to go out, then talk to me and I'll put you in the right hands. You then are basically getting your sphere of influence to tell you which one of their friends are planning to put their home on the market in Portland. And I'm really excited about this conversation. Moreover than that, Lauren, is if someone were to ask, do you know a realtor in Portland at, let's say, a dinner party? Most of those people know 2, 3, 4 realtors in Portland. But if someone in Portland says, do you know of a realtor in Albuquerque, New Mexico? Very few people will have a name, but they know Lauren Goché has a network, and therefore it takes from all these people having agents that they could refer to in Portland down to one person, because you've said, I'm the expert in networking with all these agents throughout the country. And that's super exciting opportunity that I have not really thought about.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've talked to Marguerite Martin yet, but she's the person.
Many, many times. I love Marguerite.
Yeah. We all do. But she moved to Portland 3 or 4 years ago now. And some friends were like, oh, you guys should meet. And we became friends. And she just basically was like, why aren't you doing this more? And then she essentially just coached me in it. And then she convinced me. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's duh.
You just said you didn't see it that way until Marguerite had that chat with you, because you may have doing the traditional way, the way I've been doing it. I really haven't thought about it till you mentioned it.
So that's not true. Like my mentor had a pretty decent referral network. So I had done it, but I hadn't concentrated on it. I hadn't seen someone create an entire business out of just referrals. And referrals were coming to her in, but I was at the point where I was overworking and I was running around, and that was like my first thing. I was like, I don't want to do condos anymore. Like I'm not passionate about them. I know people that are passionate about them. And of course, what Marguerite taught me to do is like, get over my ego.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the best fit for that. Someone else is. Someone else is a really good fit for that. And that's the best thing for the client.
Absolutely. Like quite often when I meet a client that says, I am moving to a different city, I think it's really important to find out what the right fit for that client is, just not defaulting to that one person that you know of in a certain town, because there are very laid back agents. There are very, hyper cross your I's, cross your T's type of agents. And when we want to make sure that the client is taken care of, because when you refer out to somebody, it reflects back on you. And their friends and family still live in your hometown. And so we cannot forget that when we refer out a restaurant, for example, and our friends have a bad experience, they will more likely blame me than the restaurant. I'm the one that said it. I sent them there. And the same impact will be on your referral network. And even though that couple is moving out of town, their friends, family, coworkers still exist in Portland. And it's that reputation that's really, really important to maintain.
It just goes back to putting the client first, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, what does the client need? 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 Over and over and over again. And sometimes we need that reminder.
Yeah.
I've gotten pretty good. I have an intake questionnaire for my clients, even if I'm referring them out, to learn a lot about them. And I figured out some little tell me about yourself. What do you have kids and dogs, and what do you do for work? What do you do for fun? Like, what are I kind of am trying to say, what is your belief system? Because one time I referred some people out to someone in LA and I didn't do my research and I didn't really talk to her. It was a very flippant referral. And they were like, she was wildly homophobic. Wow. Like wildly homophobic. And I was mortified.
Yeah.
So mortified. And this is controversial maybe to some people, but at this point, I straight up am like, what's your politics? And if people are like, oh, politics doesn't have anything to do with my work, then I'm like, next.
Yeah.
Because I know my people, my specific people, they are not going to want to go to someone who is homophobic, or, I just referred a distant cousin to someone in Detroit, and I'm like, I need a queer friendly realtor. Yeah. That's not a given. We're a pretty conservative, group of career people, and statistically. So I go even further. I'm like, what's your politics? I look at your social media. One of the things that I ask is where do you donate time and money? Whether you do that or not, that's up to you. But I have learned that it makes my clients very happy to know that I've considered that when it's a good fit. And that, again, creates more loyalty for me in the back end.
So when you go about building your referral network, Lauren, and you mentioned at the beginning, your mom is moving out, or you said someone's mom's moving out and they're in the wrong hands with the wrong agent, and that's something that you want to avoid. So obviously, before you refer them out, you're making sure they're a great agent. Do you go out throughout North America or the States and find all these people first? Or are you adding these destinations piece by piece as you get requests from buyers and sellers in Portland, and then, hey, I'm going to Denver, and then you do your research and find the right person in Denver? Or are you proactive in getting this network together even prior to you having a client that's heading to that destination?
It's both. My client in Vermont, it's not even a place in Vermont. I was like, I don't know. There's why would I ever think to do that? But I then ask my colleagues in different states, who knows someone in Vermont? And then I just start researching. It's time and effort. I know I have people all throughout Washington. I know I have Jordan and Carissa in LA, and they're this awesome team. And I love sending people to them. And I have people all over. But then also I just went to visit my friends in Lewisburg, West Virginia. And I was like, who's your realtor here? And she's like, oh my God, Jill is amazing. And I was like, Jill, I know this is last minute, but do you want to get lunch? And we sat and talked for 2 hours, and we're going back and forth, and she's like, oh, what's your idea in this? How do you do this? And it was just boom, 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 boom. And I was like, I would absolutely send someone your way. And so now I have someone there.
Yeah.
So it's a both. It's a 2-pronged, 5-pronged approach.
What's the next touch point for her? 3 years from now, when you have someone going that way, will you reach out to her throughout the year at the next conference? Will you try to find her?
Yeah, I think like the next conference, I'll try to find all these people. On my list of things to do is to really like send little gifts to everybody and like really nurture that. It is just what I do and what I want to do are two different
Absolutely.
things. What I want to do is, I have this database, I have a spreadsheet, I have all this stuff. And what I really would love to do is like, thank you gifts, like once a year touches, really nurture that. Because what happens is Jill in West Virginia doesn't have someone coming to Portland, but she's talking to her friend who's a realtor in DC, and they're a referral. And her friend in DC is like, I don't suppose you have anybody in Portland. She's like, I do. Yeah. I do have someone in Portland. Yep. Talk to Lauren. And that happens a lot to me, like a lot to me.
I think it happens to a lot of people that put the effort into referral network. And that's one of the points I have is, you have these past clients, Lauren, that you've done a great job with, and they become raving fans inside Portland, Oregon for you. There's clients that you've worked with that their friends don't dare use someone else than yourself. I mean, that just happens. They turn into these raving fans. Yeah. Same thing with a realtor network is even if you are, like you say, in Boston and someone says, hey, do you know someone in Portland? And do I know someone? And so all those people out there, the other agents that you've worked with where it's gone smoothly, you got them the information, you stayed in contact, you got to close, you said thank you. All those people go, oh, I've worked with referral agents in the past. Lauren's amazing. The client came super qualified. They were enjoyable to work with because of the personalities that matched. I would definitely recommend sending to or getting to know Lauren Goché in Portland. And so I think that builds on itself because in these referral network realtor groups or even in your own brokerage Facebook group, the same names in certain towns keep popping up all the time because they've put the effort into it and they just become Lauren Goché equals Portland.
So if you just consider you have two branches of your business, you have your actual doing the deals and showing houses and doing stuff, but then your other branch is referral. And like, how would you nurture your network of clients over here with all of your actually doing deals? How many times a year do you remind your clients, hi, I'm here. Who do you know you can send me this way? It's the same thing with your referral network because I want both of those things to be going strong all the time.
And how has the shift in technology becoming a lot more remote workers over the past couple of years? Have you seen an impact of people? Although I would imagine if I could work from anywhere in the United States, Portland would be at the top of my list anyway. So there's a lot of people coming in. I feel sorry for anyone who leaves Portland and goes somewhere else. But do you think that the shift in technology says, okay, I need to be in Portland, but now I don't have to because I'm a remote worker. I'm going to go back to my hometown or where my family's from or where my mom and dad are living right now because they're aging. Have you seen a change in the number of referrals based on technology shifts?
Oh, huge. I think that it was already heading that way in the last 5-10 years. And now that it's proven that it can work and your employees work their asses off at home, like it's really opened things up. And the flow of people, I think, let people live multi-generationally. Like you said, move back with my aging parents. Yeah. I've never seen anything like it. Like they have the freedom to live where they want or where they're needed, honestly, I think it's pretty great. Having people either move from Portland or to Portland, they've always wanted to live in Portland, or I've always wanted to move back to Missouri to be with my family, but I couldn't do it because of my job. And now I can. And now I the grandparents can help watch the kid. And I live down the street from my sister. Like, it's awesome. I'm all over it. I love it. I think it's only going to increase this freedom.
Lauren, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this chat so far because it's called the Real Estate Coffeehouse Podcast because of all the great conversations I've had with agents over a cup of coffee and just talking to really smart people. You pull nuggets out of that. And we want to invite the entire real estate industry to sit down with myself and the guest and just listen in on a conversation and learn something. This podcast went 180 degrees from where I thought it would, as far as referral networks go. And that's what's so exciting about this is the more times you get out there and talk to really smart people. And when I first started going to conferences, I didn't understand that the value was in the lobby and not in the session. And as someone who's done sessions before, I think I try to bring as much value as I possibly can. But the lobby con, sitting down and talking to really smart people that aren't afraid to hold back, that are willing to share because they come from a place of plenty. It's just so refreshing to have a conversation like this with you, where I know I'm going to go back, sit down in the office with Jorda and Trish and say, we have this great realtor referral network because of things like this podcast. We're adding value and people get to know me, associate my name and Trish's names and Jorda's names with Langley, British Columbia. That's great. But we should also be proactive on the opposite side, going to our clients and saying, hey, do you know someone who's planning to leave town? Let us get in your hands of the right agent, because you're right. It's the right thing to do by them to making sure they're being taken care of. You put the buyers and sellers in your marketplace or other marketplaces first, you will win in this business and you will win as a human being because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. And you say the value is in the lobby at a conference, but like, I consider myself successful. I consider myself an extremely good realtor, but it is 99% because of all of the realtors that I have sat down and talked to over the years and that have been willing to share ideas and share strategies. And I would not be successful if it weren't for so many people being like, oh, have you tried this? Or, oh, I do this, you should try it. Or, it's true.
Last question before we move on to the next segment is, what is just 2 or 3 of the strategies that you employ throughout the year to let people know that you are that person? Let's go back to the beginning of the conversation now that we've dove into it a little bit more. What are 2 or 3 of your strategies that you use every year to let your network know that you're the person that can help get them to the right agent throughout North America?
I would say a combination social media blast and email blast. That's one.
And just coming out and saying, if you're moving out of town, get in touch with me. I'll put you in the hands of the right agent. Is it just that simple at just letting people know that that's the value you can provide?
I go further. I'm like, is your mom's hairdresser's brother's boyfriend's dog walker buying, selling? So that's one, is really straight up. Like, I will help you find someone. 2 is being picky with who you refer people out to. Figure out, are they analytical? Are they emotional? Mm-hmm. Are they looking for an investment property or condo? And like, find someone that specializes in that, or is a personality fit, or is a beliefs alignment.
Matchmaker.
Yeah. Like, this is an intimate process when you're buying or selling. Like, you are dealing with money and family and scarcity and abundance. And like, all of these things literally always come up, like every single time. Pair your person with someone that's going to understand all that stuff.
Now it's time for Been There, Done That.
Tell him he gives me a cup of coffee, I'll answer his questions.
We're on to a rapid fire round of 7 questions focused on our guests' years of real estate experience. Here we go, Lauren. Question number 1. You've moved to a new area. What would be the number 1 thing you'd be looking for in a new brokerage?
Boutique, small, like 30 and under agent. When I interviewed to move to my current brokerage, one of the things I asked, I was like, is the office dog friendly? Because I will be bringing my dogs in. It's funny, but it was definitely one of the top things. I was like, I want an office that has a lot of dogs. Thank you.
I bring my pup to the office all the time. And thankfully, one of the dogs we fostered when we got her was adopted by our office manager. So they're sisters, so they have no choice but to let my dog pop into the office now and then. Yes. Number 2, what advice would you give an agent who's never experienced a dramatic market shift to help them get the most out of the changing market?
Go to the veterans.
Yeah.
Go to the veterans. Have conversations. A good reminder, even through recessions, everybody needs to buy and sell houses no matter what. And just put the clients first.
Number 3, in your business today, what is a single activity or product that gives you the best ROI of your time and or dollars?
Instagram. I get about a quarter of my business from Instagram at this point. I have built it up over the last decade and I don't put much money into it. but I foster the relationships on there. And 25% of my business is a big chunk at this point.
Number 4, what is the worst movie you legitimately enjoy?
There's an 80s movie called The Pirate Movie, and it's a spoof of the Pirates of Penzance, and it's the guy from the Blue Lagoon, and it's so terrible, and I have the soundtrack.
Number 5.
I love it. Go watch it.
Number 5, what is the best piece of business advice you've received?
I feel like this is probably overused, but just be yourself, man. Like, just be yourself. Like, I remember when I first got into this and I was like, I have to stop cussing and just being like, I'm very politically active. And my mentor was like, wouldn't you want your realtor to be open like that? You wouldn't want to hire someone who's clutching their pearls and, like easily offended by the F word. So be who you are and you're going to attract that. And it has paid off a millionfold. It's really the best.
Number 6, 30,000 foot view. What is something you wished you could change about the real estate industry?
Oh, this is going to be controversial. I wish the barrier to entry was a little bit higher. Like, I always laugh, like any idiot can get their real estate license. I have to be careful there because as a white person, like, we have absolutely made the barrier to entry for people of color pretty fucked. We have kept realtors and people of color that are buying and selling. Like, if you don't know the history of it, you need to do your fucking research, to be honest. So I want to be careful when I say the barrier of entry needs to be higher and understand that's multi-layered, but it just allows for a lot of inexperienced realtors that are wild and out, really not representing their clients well. And you just hear a lot of really sad stories of buyers and sellers just going, oh my God, this was a terrible experience.
Number 7, in one sentence, how would you sum up the internet?
Chaos. Oh, a sentence? Okay.
The internet is chaos. That's a sentence.
Yeah. I would say it's the worst and the best of us.
Love it. Thanks, Lauren, for being my guest and spilling the beans on building a dynamic referral network. And thank you to the listener for joining Lauren Goché and myself for a chat about robust referrals here at the Real Estate Coffee Shop. We hoped it brewed up some value for you, and remember to enjoy the grind.
That's this week's episode of the Real Estate Coffee House podcast with your host, Michael Thorne. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode. The Real Estate Coffee House podcast is brought to you by Thorne Maisie Bonger's Real Estate Group with Remax Lifestyles Realty in Langley, BC. Thank you for listening.